So yeah, just going to ask you some questions now, really, because you have got an insanely successful PT business. You know, like you say, most PTs in person would be happy with 20 plus clients a week, and you're doing double that and have done for over a decade. So what do you think your sort of key, like the one thing you would recommend to newly qualified PTs that they should focus on?
I think with not even just newly qualified PTs, but PTs who have been in the industry for a while but necessarily struggling with getting the client base they want, is first and foremost that they're not 100% confident in what they're selling, which ultimately is themselves. Like you are selling, you are your product. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be the best physique, the leanest. I mean, there are people that we've had on the course, there are people that I've trained who are in better condition than what I am. They're CrossFit athletes, they're bodybuilders, etc. But what they're not necessarily understanding is your client really doesn't care about that. It's what you can fundamentally do for them. And it's having that first initial few conversations, building bridges, not becoming a hard salesperson. You don't really necessarily need to if you just try and talk to them on a human level. And that's what people tend to struggle with at the beginning, because they're ultimately, some of them may be desperate to pick up clients, so it comes across. If you're desperate to try and sell to someone, fundamentally, you know, and I don't know, I think you're the same as me, that if I feel that someone's trying to sell to me, I switch off, I get my back up, and I don't want to, leave me alone. Same as in a shop, if someone come up to me and said, "Oh, do you need help?" No, I don't. I want to browse, and if I want to buy, I'll buy. And quite a lot of people are like that. But in the gym space, if you just start to build bridges in the first instance, so when they walk through the door, when you say you're at a gym group and they come through the pods, that's how it sort of works. Be there, make eye contact, say hello. Do that a couple of times. Then when you see them actually training, you've made that first initial conversation with or just saying hello and that eye contact. You see them doing something and go, "You've been training here for a couple of weeks now, like how are things going? What is it for?" You start to create that open conversation just to get to know them, rather than just go straight out the back and go like, "Oh, do you mind if I, got a free PT taster?" No, like people like, "No, I'm okay." And it's actually building those bridges a little bit quicker. And then when you do eventually build those bridges and you have the opportunity to, if they start asking you a question, or say, I don't know, give an example, a guy in the resistance area doing free weights, and you can see that when it comes to a shoulder press, they're just not getting anywhere near the range they need to. They're starting and doing half reps and stuff, but you've had a couple of conversations and then just go like, "Okay, do you want a little bit of help with that?" Whatever it may be, just to then, you've already created that pathway where it doesn't feel like you're just coming out of nowhere. They'll probably go like, "Okay," and then you can start to have a conversation again, moving into, so what is it you're looking to achieve? How comes you're coming in 4 days a week now? What's sort of the main ambition? Start to have those conversations, and then offer not a free PT taster. I think the PT taster as a word is dead. I don't think tasters are necessarily what you need. It's actually just going out and having a chat, a consultation as such. And ultimately what I tend to do with clients, I wouldn't do it in the gym. I'd go and do it in a coffee shop. Go and do it somewhere where it's a completely just a neutral zone. Because in the gym itself, that's your place of work, that's your house, that's where you go. So they're going to be slightly more intimidated. It's also normally open plan. So someone's going to feel as if someone's listening and eardropping in their conversation. So they're going to be less likely to tell you exactly why they're there, because it may not necessarily embarrassing, but it might be really quite personal as to why they're there. So a coffee shop, somewhere just a little bit quiet, a little bit more neutral, is going to help them. I mean, if your shoe is on the other foot and you're working with a CEO of a company, imagine walking into their boardroom and like, as a PT with no office skills and anything like that, and you're going to have a conversation, you're going to feel really intimidated. It's going to feel horrible. So take that away, go and have a conversation and sit there, buy them a coffee, actually sit there with that person, because once you do something like that and you've actually even paid out your own money, they feel a little bit indebted to you in the first place, because like, "Oh, I'll get the next one." So already straight away, you've started an opportunity where this is now something that we'll do again. And that's so much better from picking up clients in the first instance, but then retaining them, because that time that you've done at the beginning is crucial for how long you're going to keep them.
That's it. I think one thing a lot of PTs struggle with and are scared of doing really is approaching people in the gym. They feel like it's an awkward interaction. Someone's on the treadmill, someone's doing their weights, they don't want to just walk up and interrupt them. But like you've said there, if you can kind of break the ice early on and just say hello a couple of times, and then that just makes that interaction a bit more natural, doesn't it? Later on you can...
100%. One that always amazes me with personal trainers, especially people who haven't got the client base they want, is how many of them train at a different club. Yeah. Like they'll be, so I'm a PT at Anytime Fitness, but I'll go and train over at Pure Gym. So it's like, oh no, this is my own time. But that's the perfect time
to have a chat with someone.
Because you're not working, you're not maybe in the uniform, which make people think from an authority standpoint or think, oh, they're coming to sell to me. You're training at the same time.
Yeah, you just have a chat. Yeah.
They may then just ask about your training, and they've done it for you. Like, fantastic. It's alien to me how many people go like, oh, you know, I like doing my own thing with headphones on. But do that when you've picked up the clients you want. Do that when you're doing 25, 30, 40 sessions a week, and go, actually, I just need the space to detach.
Well, that's it. I guess people do want a bit of downtime away from work, but like you say, if their main aim is to pick up clients, it's a great way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that's generally what I would do, trying to pick up.
And then moving on, so the consultation is a big thing we have a big focus on in our course.
Yeah.
And like you've touched on there, you're not making it a taster where you're giving them a bog standard off the shelf 45-minute free taster session where they're going to do a few generic exercises that don't necessarily match up to their goals at all. You're going and having a chat with them. And what's your sort of process there?
Yeah, so I mean, you're absolutely right. That's how a taster session is generally run, and that's how I was taught when I was at Nuffield 15 years ago. Was you've got to book in 5 to 10 PT taster sessions a week, and then on rotation, if you were to book in sort of 10 taster sessions, you're probably going to convert a client. Which, I mean, it's metrics, that does make sense, but the taster in itself was a glorified induction. Yeah. You'd spend 45 minutes with them going, 5 minutes of it would be a chat, okay, what do you want to do? And then you'd go off and show them how to do, like, I don't know, say a deadlift or a squat, and try and showcase your ability to teach them a compound movement to then try and get them into thinking, oh, fantastic, like, I'll move and I'll do PT. It's rubbish. It's no one, you haven't actually sat down with them and found out anything about them. At all. The consultation and that going out for a coffee and just finding out about them, and also digging deeper into who they are, not just what they want. Like, I spoke to recently, I had a woman who came in and just having a chat about what she wanted to achieve, and the generic thing like most people do is they'll tell you what they feel that you want to hear in the first place. You know, I just want to lose weight and tone up and stuff. Okay, great. What does that mean? Right? If we were to dissect that, you said about weight loss, why is that important to you now? And then just start to find out a little bit more. You know, and it's amazing how very, very quickly, if you just ask and leave it open for someone to speak, how much they'll actually talk to you. And this woman, obviously I'm not going to mention her name, but it was exactly that. You know, I want to lose weight, tone up, feel a bit better in myself. Okay, so you said that. That's great. They're awesome things, but yeah, what does success look like? If we were to fast forward 6 months, what do you want to see change? How do you want to feel? All that stuff. And it was very, very quickly, it was her and her husband's marriage has broken down. They're trying to rekindle things. But in the 3 months that they've been apart, she's put on 2 stone. That was from stress. That was from where she is in her life cycle. She started to be perimenopausal, and these things created a real rift in the relationship beforehand that he didn't know about. It's now something that she wants to work towards. So ultimately, that 2 stones, she just wants to feel sexy again for her husband, for herself, and that's an emotional attachment to a goal that we can now work towards together. But because she shared that with me, and she's probably never shared that even with her husband, that's now something where she's only ever come to me to buy personal training. She's only ever going to come to me for advice. And that 30-minute conversation where we've had a coffee, I would never have got in a PT taster, where I've just asked a couple of questions and then taught her how to do a movement, which ultimately meant nothing to her. She doesn't care at all about that.
And when they've given you that sort of deeper meaning behind their goals, do you then sort of use that to sort of match up what you can do for them? or do you sort of leave that for a follow-up session? Or
in the conversation there, it would be let's start with, so we've fundamentally understood what your almost long-term goal is there. So we want to start small, and what can we do today? What can we change today to get towards that now? So we talk about, okay, exercise as a whole. Let's set some adherence-based goals. So realistically, how often can you exercise? Can you move? How much more can you move on a day-to-day basis in comparison to what you're doing now? So finding out what they do for a job is massively important. If they just work as an estate agent or work as an office-based job where they're not moving a great deal, then we need to talk about how much movement can we get alongside what you do. Could you look at going out for a walk each day? Could you add a little bit more exercise in there, which fundamentally will help them? So asking those questions are going to be crucial as well. But very much then just talking about the nutrition and just understanding what they do. Most people say, oh, I'm pretty good with my eating. Oh, okay. Then you start to dissect it, and it's amazing what people think is good and bad. It's amazing when they completely forget about the couple of bottles of wine they have over a weekend, or the grazing that they have while they're waiting for their dinner to be cooked. Then those little bits, which actually accumulate across 7 days, make a huge difference. But sitting down and having those conversations and making small goals at the very beginning, and then just starting to add to them across the time you're with them. I think, again, when it comes to PT and stuff, like you say, when you're having that first conversation, I think that when you're having it, you're going to have this client for at least 6 months to a year. Not, I'm going to have them for a block of 10, hope that I've done enough to keep them. Start the conversation as if you are going to be with them on the whole journey that they need to be, and then you can work backwards from that, rather than going, okay, well, we're going to have a block of 10 sessions, we're going to do 2 a week, and then we can see that this, and then you're actually worried about trying to sell the next 10 block because you don't.
Long-term thinking there,
there's no long-term thinking. Whereas if you actually start, okay, this is where you want to go. They've got a window. It doesn't even matter if it's almost a 3-month window. Like they've got a wedding in 3 months. They've got a holiday and they just want to be able to get into a bikini and not feel shit. Okay, fantastic. There's your window. That actually work from there. So now you know that you're probably going to have them for a minimum of 12 weeks, and you can really intensify the training, the nutrition in a shorter time frame if you need to. But you've got to be thinking more long term and how long you're going to be with the client. Because if you're thinking I've only got you for this first 10 block, the way you are and the way you necessarily program, because you're trying to impress them in that 10 sessions to try and keep them, it's just not. You're now not thinking about the client. You're now just thinking about your own pocket, and it's never as good.
All of that comes from this consultation process of asking all the right questions, so
Absolutely.
you understand enough about them to give them the right sort of advice off the bat within that consultation to make them want to sort of commit to training with you as a client, but then giving them enough sort of going forwards to sort of get their teeth into and start sort of progressing towards their goals.
Yeah, absolutely. The consultation and actually being there, using as many open questions as possible to allow the client to speak just completely freely, non-judgmental in what they're saying, asking great follow-up questions, find that rapport build, find things that, whether it be something that you've done with another client who's had the same problems, they don't feel alone. That's really quite powerful as well, when it's like they know that actually what you're saying there is exactly the same as someone I worked with 3 months ago. They were in exactly the same place as you, and now they're here. That straight away gives them a little bit of relax, like thinking, okay, this person knows where I'm coming from. Like, everyone's different, of course they are in their own way. They're going to have different barriers, motivators, etc. But ultimately, like, if it's an aesthetic change, whether it be weight loss, muscle gain, you probably have had clients that have wanted those goals. So to be able to give that to them as well when you're having that conversation. I've actually worked with someone very similar to yourself in that respect. That massively goes a long way without even really thinking about it. People just think, oh, okay, like they've done this before, they know what they're doing. And even when you're starting out completely fresh, that may not be the case because you haven't had a wealth of experience as a PT, but you've probably had your own journey. You've probably, whether it be fitness background or whether you've tried to cut weight in the past or put on muscle, whatever it may be, a family member, just find common ground. Just puts people at ease massively.
So one thing I think people are quite scared of is asking that question, you know, so do you want to buy, basically, in however you word that. So how do you wrap up these consultations to sort of go from having found out all that information to actually getting them to want to commit to paying you for your services?
Yeah, I mean, getting all that conversation done, and this could be a 30-minute, could be a 40-minute, whatever it may be. I would always block myself out for sort of an hour and a half and expect that I might be out for that whole time. I'm not going to knock someone out and go, right, if I ultimately haven't sold in 20 minutes, it's done. It absolutely isn't. But within that first sort of 30, 40 minutes of a conversation that we've had there, of a coffee and sort of getting to know about them, not once have I mentioned about the personal trainer, not once have I mentioned about money, anything like that. Because I haven't needed to. I've got to know the person, they've got to know me, the rapport's being built. And then fundamentally, when it gets nearer to the end, it would be, okay, right, this is what you've sort of stated, this is the time frame that you want to hit this. And then using your experience and understanding, and obviously what they've sort of said about as well with regards to how often they could train. So say someone's come in and said, you know what, like, I know I could get into the gym 3 times a week. Okay, well, ultimately that means that maximum they'll be able to see you is 3 times a week, maximum. Okay, but don't go straight in for the 3 times a week. Let them make a decision. So, okay, this is what I think would be a best idea. I think for the first 6 weeks of this 12 weeks that we're going to be together for this, I think you should commit to 2 sessions a week with myself, and we will program what to do on that other session, and we'll go from there. After the sort of 6 weeks, hopefully what we've done there is built up enough of a confidence and understanding of the program that we can reduce that down to once a week if you want to. And the other 2 sessions you do on your own. So they can start to see that transition from paying this amount to reduced amount to then ultimately, hopefully then just going, I'm just see you once a week, every single week to keep checked in and accountable. Ultimately then as well, if you had that with 40 people, it doesn't matter. Say you had 2 people go on holiday, I've only lost a session a week. Whereas if you've got some people who are doing 4 sessions a week every week, 2 of them go on holiday, that's 8 sessions gone. Like, you're not getting that back. You're not going to be able to find that time. But it's being completely honest with people. This is what I think you should do. And then let them be completely honest with you back. I don't know if I can afford 2 sessions a week. That's absolutely fine. You're still going to get the same results with 1 session a week because we'll program what you should do. That's not a problem whatsoever. But I think you've got to be transparent. If you go in straight at the bat, right, 3 sessions a week with me, this, that and the other, you probably scare people off because then you actually start going on about price and then I go, oh, shit, like, I don't think I can afford that. It's a lot of money. Blah, blah, blah. Don't go down that path. Be completely transparent. This is what I believe would work. And honestly, I've never really had, by doing it that way, I've never had anyone sort of turn around and say no. I can't think of anyone that...
So rather than sort of asking them for the sale effectively, you're recommending, based off the information you found out from them, you're recommending what you think is best for them, genuinely.
Yeah.
Obviously there's a price tag to that, which you're explaining to them, but hopefully, given that you've understood everything about them from all your questioning, you are actually giving them a genuine recommendation and they sort of go with that.
Yeah, and this is... I've sold the product to them, which is my services and stuff, without selling. I haven't had to sell anything here. I'm not trying to push you to a sale. It's literally just a conversation on a human level and giving them advice which I think is suitable to them. They respect that and then they go with it. Yeah. And it really does make a massive, massive difference, rather than, just sort of trying to get as much money out of someone as possible. And ultimately, it never works. Yeah. It really doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.